They thought you'd never be believed, but God exposed it all. If you are hearing this now, it is not an accident. Something long buried is already moving toward the light, and you can feel it in your spirit before you see it with your eyes. They assumed your voice would dissolve into silence. They counted on confusion, fear, and exhaustion to erase what truly happened. They believed time would bury the truth. But heaven has already marked this moment, and the balance has begun to shift. You were watched closely while you were doubted. Conversations happened behind closed doors where your name was spoken with confidence and contempt. They rehearsed their version of events so many times that even they began to believe it. And for a season, it looked as if their story had won. You questioned yourself. You wondered if standing firm had been a mistake. Yet even in the quiet hours when no one defended you, God was recording everything. Hear this clearly now. Nothing that was done to you was invisible. Not the manipulation. Not the subtle twisting of facts. Not the calculated silence meant to make you look unstable or unreliable. Every word, every intention, every hidden motive was weighed. And while you waited, heaven remained still, not because God was unsure, but because the exposure had to arrive at the exact moment it would carry the greatest impact. There is a reason the pressure increased just before now. When truth is about to surface, resistance always intensifies. You felt the spiritual tension, the heaviness, the sudden attempts to discredit you one final time. That was not random. That was fear reacting to inevitability. They sensed what you could not yet see, that the foundation of their falsehood was cracking. What is coming will not require you to shout or defend yourself. This is important. You are not being asked to convince anyone. God does not need your argument to prove His justice. The exposure will unfold through events, through contradictions, through mouths that speak too much at the wrong moment. People who once doubted you will begin to notice inconsistencies. The same ones who dismissed you will quietly revisit what you said and realize it aligns too perfectly with what is now being revealed. Stay grounded as this unfolds. Vindication can be as overwhelming as the injustice that preceded it. When the narrative shifts, emotions will surface: relief, grief, anger, even disbelief. Let them pass through you, but do not let them control you. This moment is not about revenge, it is about restoration. God is not merely clearing your name. He is repositioning you. Watch carefully who distances themselves when the truth begins to breathe. Some will disappear not because they hate you, but because your vindication confronts their own compromises. Others will suddenly show interest in your story, wanting proximity to what God has confirmed. Discernment will be essential now. You are entering a season where alignment matters more than approval. You may notice small signs first. A message you didn't expect. A document resurfacing. Someone admitting something offhandedly. These are not coincidences, they are threads being pulled. The unraveling will not be loud at first, but it will be unstoppable. And when the full picture emerges, it will be undeniable. If this resonates deep within you, stay present. Let this message anchor you. Acknowledge it quietly, even with a simple gesture of agreement, because attention is alignment. What you honor, you make room for. And you will want to be spiritually steady for what happens next. Because what is about to be revealed will not only change how others see the situation, it will change how they see you. And more importantly, it will change where you are going next. Remain still. Remain watchful. The next shift will answer questions you never thought would be resolved, and it will arrive sooner than you expect. The moment you begin to notice the change, do not doubt it. This is where many hesitate, when silence breaks and movement starts. You have been trained by delay to question progress. But hear this now, what feels subtle to you is already significant in the spiritual realm. The atmosphere around your situation is no longer the same. Conversations are shifting. Perceptions are bending. What once felt locked has begun to loosen. You were never meant to carry the burden of proving the truth alone. That weight was never yours. It exhausted you because it was not designed for human strength. And this is why God waited. Not to test you, but to remove you from the struggle entirely. When exposure comes from heaven, it cannot be reversed by human denial. That is what makes this moment irreversible. Pay attention to how people speak now. The tone is changing. Certainty is fading. You may hear hesitation where confidence once lived. Some will start asking questions they previously mocked. Others will speak defensively without being accused. These are signs. Truth disrupts false peace before it restores real order. You are being called to restraint. This is crucial. Do not rush to explain yourself. Do not rush to remind them of what they said or did. Silence in this season is not weakness, it is authority. Let events speak. Let evidence surface. Let God orchestrate the timing. Your composure will speak louder than any argument ever could. There is also something happening internally. You are reclaiming parts of yourself that were diminished by doubt. Confidence is returning, not as arrogance, but as clarity. You are remembering who you were before confusion entered. This is restoration in motion. And restoration always precedes elevation. Understand this, exposure is not just about revealing what they did. It is about revealing who you are. Your integrity, your consistency, your restraint, these qualities are becoming visible now. People are beginning to recognize that your silence was strength, not guilt. That your patience was wisdom, not fear. Some will apologize. Some will not. Release the expectation that everyone must acknowledge the truth for it to be real. Vindication does not require unanimous agreement. It requires alignment with heaven. And that alignment is already secured. There may be moments when anger resurfaces. When memories replay. When you want justice to feel personal. Let those emotions rise. But do not act from them. Justice is already in motion. Acting prematurely would only slow what is divinely timed. Trust the process you cannot fully see yet. As this unfolds, you will notice opportunities opening unexpectedly. Doors that were closed without explanation will begin to reopen, sometimes quietly, sometimes suddenly. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. God is not only correcting the past, He is preparing your future. And now, hear this gently but clearly. Your support matters. When you engage with messages like this, when you acknowledge them, even through a small gesture of appreciation, you participate in the flow of what is being released. Some choose to express that through the thanks button below, not as obligation, but as alignment. It helps sustain the space where truth continues to be spoken and clarity continues to flow. Give only if it feels right. Heaven honors sincerity, not pressure. You are stepping into a phase where discernment will protect you more than defense ever did. Not everyone who approaches you now deserves access. Some are curious. Some are cautious. Some are calculating. Watch patterns, not promises. Trust consistency over words. The narrative is no longer controlled by those who twisted it. That control has been removed. And this is why you may sense unease around you, because those who benefited from the lie feel the shift. Exposure does not ask permission. It arrives. Stay grounded. Stay observant. Stay aligned. What is happening now is only the beginning of a larger unveiling, one that will not only clear your name, but reposition your purpose. And as the next layer begins to surface, you will realize something even more powerful is about to be revealed, something that explains why this had to happen exactly this way. Something deeper is happening now, and it reaches beyond the surface exposure you can already sense. What is unfolding is not only about correction, it is about revelation of assignment. You were placed in that situation because of who you are, not because of weakness or error. Certain truths only surface when they collide with someone who refuses to be reshaped by lies. That someone was you. You endured confusion because confusion was the tool used against you. They needed you uncertain so they could remain comfortable. They needed you quiet so their version could stand. Yet even in moments when you questioned yourself, your spirit never agreed with the distortion. That inner resistance was evidence of divine alignment. You were never deceived, only delayed. Now that the veil is lifting, you may notice an unexpected response within yourself. Not celebration. Not anger. But clarity. A calm awareness that says, "This makes sense now." That clarity is important. It is God restoring your discernment, sharpening it beyond what it was before. You will not misread people the same way again. You will not ignore red flags. You will not over-explain truth to those committed to misunderstanding. Be prepared for sudden recollections. Memories will resurface. Not to torment you, but to confirm what you knew all along. Things that once felt insignificant will align into a clear pattern. When that happens, do not dwell in regret. You did the best you could with what you were given at the time. Wisdom has seasons, and you are entering a higher one now. Some around you will feel unsettled by your calm. They expected bitterness. They expected retaliation. They expected you to become smaller or harsher. Instead, you are steadier. That steadiness is disruptive to those who built narratives on your supposed instability. Let them be uncomfortable. You do not need to adjust your posture to ease their conscience. This is also a moment of spiritual separation. Certain connections cannot follow you into truth because they were formed in distortion. Do not mourn what naturally falls away. God removes what cannot coexist with where you are going. What feels like loss now will soon be recognized as protection. Your voice is changing too. Not in volume, but in authority. When you speak now, there is less urgency and more precision. Words carry weight because they are no longer fueled by the need to be believed. You speak from alignment, not defense. And people feel that difference even if they cannot explain it. You may notice that others begin to confide in you. Not because they suddenly trust everyone, but because your endurance marked you as safe. Survivors recognize survivors. Truth recognizes truth. This is the beginning of influence, though it will not look like attention at first. It will look like quiet respect, private acknowledgement, subtle shifts in how people respond to you. Remain vigilant. When truth surfaces, counterfeit validation often follows. Some will praise you to secure access. Some will apologize to relieve themselves, not to honor you. Forgiveness does not require reconnection. You are allowed to move forward without reopening doors God already closed. If this message continues to steady you, acknowledge it in whatever way feels natural, whether that is staying present, offering a quiet agreement, or gently supporting the space where these messages are shared through a like or subscription. These actions are not about numbers. They are about sustaining clarity in a noisy world. Give only from peace, never from pressure. The exposure you are witnessing is layered. What has surfaced so far is only the first level, the most visible one. Deeper truths are still rising. Motives, alliances, intentions that were hidden even from those involved. When these emerge, the picture will become undeniable. And when that happens, the weight will fully shift off your shoulders. Be patient with yourself during this phase. Healing does not follow a straight line. Some days you will feel strong. Other days the memory of injustice will sting. Both are normal. Neither disqualifies you from what is coming. In fact, your honesty with your own process is what keeps you grounded. Understand this clearly: you are not being restored to who you were before. You are being formed into someone more discerning, more authoritative, more aligned. What was meant to silence you refined you. What was meant to discredit you clarified you. And very soon, a revelation will emerge that connects every delay, every false accusation, every unanswered prayer into one unmistakable purpose. When that final piece appears, it will change how you understand your entire journey, and it will arrive when you least expect it. Now the momentum becomes undeniable. What once moved quietly is beginning to accelerate, and you can feel it pressing forward without your effort. This is the phase where God shifts from preparation to demonstration. You may notice that situations start resolving themselves without your involvement. Questions you were never asked begin to answer themselves. People connect dots you were never allowed to explain. This is not coincidence, it is orchestration. You are being taught something vital in this moment. Truth does not need protection when it is backed by heaven. All it needs is time. And that time has now reached its fullness. The weight that once sat on your chest, the constant need to be careful, to anticipate misunderstanding, to manage perception, is lifting. In its place is a steadier awareness that you are no longer on trial. Expect unexpected confirmations. These may come through authority figures, through documents, through conversations you were not meant to overhear but learn about later. The validation will feel surreal at first, almost disorienting. You waited so long that part of you adapted to not being believed. Give yourself grace as your nervous system catches up with the new reality. Peace sometimes feels unfamiliar after prolonged tension. Notice how your priorities are changing. You are less interested in convincing and more interested in building. Less focused on the past and more attentive to alignment. This is because your assignment is shifting. You are not being restored just to stand still, you are being restored to move forward with clarity. God does not expose truth to leave you where you were wounded. Some will attempt to rewrite their behavior once exposure becomes obvious. They may claim misunderstanding. They may minimize. They may suddenly express support. You are not required to correct them. Silence now is not avoidance, it is wisdom. Let actions speak. Let consistency reveal intent. You are no longer responsible for managing anyone else's conscience. There is also an invitation being extended to you, a deeper level of discernment and connection. You are being called into a space where spiritual insight is sharpened through community, not isolation. This is why some choose to step closer, to commit more intentionally, to align themselves with ongoing guidance through the join button below. Membership is not about exclusivity, it is about consistency, staying anchored in truth, clarity, and discernment as the journey unfolds. For those who feel led, joining creates a steady place of support and deeper messages meant to strengthen you through seasons like this. Enter only if it resonates. There is no pressure in alignment, only peace. As truth continues to surface, you may experience a moment of grief, not for what was lost, but for how long you carried what was never yours. Let that grief move through you. It is part of release. It does not pull you backward, it clears space for what comes next. Healing often arrives quietly, disguised as understanding. Your influence is expanding, even if your visibility is not yet obvious. Influence is not measured by attention, it is measured by trust. People are watching how you carry this moment. Your restraint, your humility, your steadiness are teaching more than any explanation ever could. This is leadership formed through fire. Be mindful of timing. Not everything needs to be shared immediately. Some truths are for confirmation, not announcement. God will show you when to speak and when to remain still. Follow that guidance closely. Premature revelation can dilute impact. Divine timing concentrates it. You may feel a renewed sense of purpose stirring, ideas returning, creativity reawakening, vision expanding. This is not random inspiration. It is restoration activating forward motion. What was paused is restarting. What was delayed is catching up. And it will move faster than you expect. If you find strength here, remain connected, through presence, through a simple like, through subscribing, or through joining if you are drawn to deeper continuity. These are not obligations. They are pathways of alignment. Choose what supports your peace. The final unfolding is approaching, the moment when everything clicks, when the full reason behind the delay becomes clear. And when it does, you will realize this was never just about being believed. It was about being positioned for something far greater than you imagined. Stay steady. Stay discerning. The last revelation is closer than it appears, and it will redefine everything you thought this journey was about. This is the moment where understanding settles into your spirit, not as information, but as knowing. The final layer is not loud. It is precise. It arrives without chaos, without argument, without the need for defense. It comes as clarity so complete that it silences every remaining question. And when it does, you will realize something profound. The delay was never punishment, it was protection. What God withheld earlier would have crushed you if it had arrived too soon. The truth, exposed without preparation, can wound as deeply as the lie. So heaven waited until your strength matched the revelation. Until your discernment was sharpened. Until your identity was anchored beyond public opinion. Only now could you carry this without being consumed by it. You are no longer seeking validation. That chapter has closed. What matters now is alignment, being in the right place, with the right people, at the right time. And alignment is exactly what this entire process was shaping. You were being refined to recognize truth instantly, to sense distortion quickly, to move without hesitation when guidance comes. This was training, not trauma without purpose. The final exposure will not shock you. It will confirm you. When it surfaces, you will not feel the urge to react, you will feel release. The weight lifts completely because the story no longer has power over you. It becomes history, not identity. And the peace that follows will be unmistakable. You may notice that others respond differently than you expected. Some will be silent. Some will be uncomfortable. Some will suddenly treat you with a respect they cannot explain. Let them. Their reactions are not your responsibility. You are not here to manage outcomes anymore. You are here to walk forward. This is where your authority becomes visible, not through confrontation, but through presence. You no longer shrink. You no longer overextend. You no longer apologize for clarity. And people feel that shift immediately. Truth carried with calm confidence is impossible to ignore. Understand this clearly. What tried to discredit you was allowed because it revealed something essential. It showed you who could not walk with you into truth. It exposed alliances built on convenience, not integrity. That separation was necessary. Where you are going next requires clean alignment. God does not elevate what is entangled. Now your future begins to take shape, not as a reaction to the past, but as a response to calling. You will notice decisions becoming easier. Discernment quicker. Peace more consistent. This is not because life becomes perfect, but because you are no longer divided inside. There may still be moments when the memory resurfaces. When you remember the nights of confusion, the injustice, the waiting. When that happens, do not resist it. Let it pass through. Gratitude will replace pain, not gratitude for what happened, but for who you became through it. Strength that is tested becomes wisdom. Wisdom that is earned becomes authority. You are not stepping back into the world the same way. You are stepping forward with vision. And vision changes how you move, who you trust, and what you tolerate. You will no longer chase spaces that require you to diminish yourself to belong. You will recognize where you are honored without explanation. This is why you had to be believed last. Because belief that comes after endurance is unshakable. It is not dependent on applause. It is rooted in truth. And truth does not need constant reinforcement, it stands. If you have stayed through this entire message, that is not accidental. Attention is alignment. Presence is preparation. And for some, a quiet acknowledgement, a like, a subscription, a continued connection, is simply a way of saying, I am ready to walk forward with clarity. Do what feels aligned. There is no pressure where there is truth. The season ahead will move faster than the one behind you. Momentum is returning. Opportunities will appear without forcing. Conversations will open without struggle. You will look back and realize the silence was strategic. The delay was intentional. The exposure was perfectly timed. And now, one final truth settles in your spirit. This was never just about being believed by people. It was about being trusted by God with what comes next. Stay alert. Stay grounded. Because the next door will open suddenly, and when it does, it will require a decision that confirms everything you have just walked through. That moment is closer than you think.